The Sustainability Value Map was developed by the Norwegian architect Chris Butters as an assessment tool for the sustainability of architecture, building and city planning projects. Sustainability is assessed in three areas: society, the economy, and ecology. The map is a visual representation of success factors in the three broad areas. Each is given equal weighting. What is represented are the sustainability achievements on a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being the highest score. Each section of the pie represents a value. The higher the score achieved, the more sections are filled in the pie, from the center at 1 to 5 at the edge of the circle. As such, the map is a comparative tool, and the user must not only decide what to represent in each section, but also what constitutes a 1 to 5 score, and more specifically, what is the ultimate 5 score. The circular map's three main areas of assessment, ecology, economy, and society, are further subdivided into categories that are considered most important for the project. With this map, the project and designer decide which subcategories are most important and representative. These indicators can be both qualitative and quantitative in nature. Qualitative indicators can include identity, involvement, health, aesthetics, and flexibility. Quantitative indicators can include land use, energy, transport, bioclimatic design, and biodiversity. Here we see the ecology area subdivided into 8 sustainability parameters for a building project. Land use, bioclimatic design, biodiversity, energy, water cycles, material cycles, transports, and health are the 8 sectors. As can be seen, each parameter includes several items. For example, land use includes effective space use, density, and footprint. Bioclimatic design includes localization orientation, climatics, and building layout. As such, each value on the scale of 1 to 5 is a conglomerate score of a number of items. This presents one of the first drawbacks to this system. Even though, for example, in the energy parameter, a score of, for example, 4 could be achieved, that could constitute a 5 in energy recovery and a 5 in renewable energy, but only a 2 in minimal consumption to give the average score of 4. Therefore, in looking at the map, one could assume that energy was pretty sustainable, whereas in fact there would be a substantial room for improvement in the level of energy consumption. The Sustainability Value Map has been used by Chris Butters and others, including the government of Norway, in various projects throughout the world. Here we can see the map being used in a comparative city planning project. As you can see, the grading system used on this map is a 1, 2, or 3, and the division of pie slices has been changed to represent values relevant to the project and its important measurements. Equal weighting to the three main areas of ecology, society, and the economy are not as evident in this map project, though Chris Butters stressed the importance of equal weighting in his original map development. However, the use of this tool is very flexible and essentially is designed anew for each project. The key lies in sticking to the same parameters and grading for each comparative map within the same project. The maps do not work well unless used in comparison. They work best when being compared to an ultimate full-score sustainable project. The challenge is deciding what constitutes the ultimate score in each parameter. Here we see a map being used for an irrigation proposal in Tanzania. The three areas of economy, society, and ecology are clearly and equally defined, and it is easy to see with a cursory glance which areas are fully sustainable and which are lacking. Areas such as sustainable energy use, gender roles, and proletarianization, which have the lowest scores, can be seen immediately to be areas which need the most attention. Chris Butters stressed that sustainability is not static and needs to be measured over time and reassessed and improved upon. This tool can provide a means of comparing over time as well as between projects. This map is for an urban ecology project in Freiburg, Germany. Even though the segments are labeled in Norwegian, one can still get a sense of the sustainability of the project at a glance. All except for 3 segments have at least a score of 3 out of 5, and there is not one of the 3 main values of environment, economy, or society that is outscoring the others or underperforming. In comparison, this map of a typical urban slum in Cape Town, South Africa, has a great variation of full scores in some areas and no scores in others. In some of the ecology segments, such as energy use, material cycles, cost, transport, and land use, the areas outperform the previous urban ecology map from Freiburg, Germany. However, in 9 other segments, the lowest score is achieved. Security, aesthetics, bioclimatic design, water cycles, health, functionality, financial structures, communication, processes, and composition all score badly. What this shows is that even though the inhabitants of the Cape Town slum have a very low ecological footprint, this would not be considered a sustainable living model based on all the areas that Butters deems essential for long-term sustainability. Butters is a strong advocate of using locally sourced material, traditional building practices, and cultural design, as well as up-to-date sustainability building practices. He takes a long-term approach to sustainability, thinking also of the lifespan of the building or project and how it may be dismantled in the future. Concrete, plastics, glues, materials that are hard to dispose of and take apart are not used, whereas traditional building methods, such as this project for a hospital in Bhutan, which combine tradition and modern practices, would score high on the values map, not only in the construction phase, but into the future. Camilla Scherve Nielsen evaluated the sustainability value map as part of her master's thesis in 2009 at Lund University in Sweden. She prepared and produced a value map for a working class area of the city of Oslo, Sagene, that was undergoing redevelopment. The most time-consuming part of the project, of course, was deciding on the segment parameters, what constituted the highest grade, and collecting the data needing to make the assessment. Here, we can see the accessibility segment of the society area of the map as the data is organized into a score. Under inclusivity of all groups of people, she sets an objective, i.e. that all people in a society should have equal access to public goods and opportunities. Data was collected from the Oslo Commune Public Survey 2004 and 2007. The findings are presented as a satisfaction grade for the age demographics, children, youth, and the elderly. For the comparison target, Sagene is compared to the average grade for the city of Oslo, and a final value of 3 is given. Below, a similar process is used for integration of immigrants. In the ecology area of the map, under the land use and biodiversity segment, we have a quantitative value for density of buildings and people, with the data used as people per hectare. The objective set is to have efficiency with high density of people and buildings, coupled with sufficient green space. Again, other areas of Oslo are used as a comparison. The quality of parks is a qualitative assessment, with the public's opinion of the parks being the criteria used for the grade of 4 out of 5. It can be seen that with the choice of comparisons, no definitive value of sustainability can be provided. A similar assessment for another city, based on comparing one area of the city to the city's average, could produce a similar looking map, but with a great difference in real-life sustainability. Among other observations on this map as a tool, it was noted by the author that the circular visual gave more emphasis to the higher scores due to the larger area of the outer segments. And if the same map were plotted as a bar graph, the visual looks more sustainable, as equal space is given to each grade level. Other difficulties the author noted in assessing this tool was how difficult it is to get data, and sometimes she had to abandon what was considered an important segment for a second choice because adequate data could not be gathered. In using the sustainability assessment tool to assess tourism projects, these challenges will be manifest and compounded by the vast nature and scope of the tourism industry. In using the sustainability value map for assessing aspects of the tourism industry, it could be used as it is in the building and architecture sectors that it was designed for, in terms of assessing the relative sustainability of hotels. As a comparative tool, it would need to compare similar projects. If hotel properties were compared to zero net emission building projects, they would perhaps not gain a high score. Especially in the high-end hotel sector, where comfort, luxury, and consumption are the product on offer, they would need to be compared to other luxury and five-star accommodations. This could be seen as a failing of the map as a sustainability tool. If it was used as Chris Butters intended, comparing projects to zero waste and zero net emission projects on the ecology scale, total community inclusion and prosperity on the social scale, and full economic viability and local economy sustainability on the economic segments, then it would take a very alternative hotel structure catering to environmentally conscious clientele to achieve any level of success. There is an emerging market for this type of green hotel, and this assessment tool would be useful if applied to such properties. The Youth Hostel Association program could use the tool to assess its relative achievements between properties and to non-touristic housing developments. Hostels would probably score favorably with their high density of clients to rooms, shared bathrooms, living spaces, and kitchens. Tourism effects, both ecologically, socially, and economically, though, are much broader than the hotel developments. Particularly when transportation is factored in on the ecology scale, the score on this map, even for a sustainable hotel or hostel, would plummet if clients take long-haul flights to get there. Eco-lodges that are being developed in the Amazon area of Ecuador are an example of this. Not only do guests travel to Ecuador on long-haul flights, but they must take a plane to travel into the jungle, as must all of the lodge supplies. The actual building may be ecologically sustainable, but the tourism venture as a whole would be less so. The concept of strategic ambiguity comes to mind in dealing with sustainable issues in the tourism industry. Tourism is essentially about travel for various reasons, and travel involves burning fossil fuels unless one is walking or cycling. The job of the tourism industry is to promote travel, which in terms of basic needs is not necessary but luxury, and therefore promotes unnecessary consumption in terms of the actual travel. Different modes of travel do have a different ecological footprint, and promoting local tourism would score better on the value map than promoting long-haul flight travel. In this respect, New Zealand, which promotes itself as a natural destination, yet bases its marketing strategy on the China, UK and USA markets, would fare worse than Vancouver Island tourism, which markets mainly to the BC, Alberta and Washington state tourist. A Vancouver Island destination that marketed locally and provided an environmentally sustainable tourism product, serving local food, promoting hiking, kayaking and cycling activities, could in fact cause a more sustainable effect than if a guest stayed at home. Strategic ambiguity being used, however, one can assess areas of the tourism industry and bring improvements even in the knowledge that the overall product is unsustainable. Transportation would be one segment assessed on the map in the ecology area and could fare badly, while other areas such as water consumption and cycles could do well. The overall look of the map would not be unfavorable, even though the transportation failing would eradicate any other ecology successes in the big picture. In the social area of assessment, impacts on a community could be measured in various ways, but are perhaps harder to measure. As an example of these challenges, the usefulness of the value model and the scope of tourism effects socially, we can look at the Chiapas region of Mexico, and more specifically, the town of San Cristobal de las Casas. Chiapas is the most southern state on the west coast of Mexico. According to Vanderberg in his paper, Marketing Maya's Ethnic Tourism Promotion in Mexico, over 6 million tourists visit Mexico annually, and over $1.5 billion is brought into the country over what Mexicans spend abroad. It accounts for over 3% of GDP and employs close to 10% of the labor force. However, less than 10% of tourism could be described as cultural or ethnic. 90% is of the sun, sand, and sea variety, and concentrated in a dozen or so coastal resorts. These resorts have not been developed with any concern about sustainability, and like similar coastal resort development, for example, in Thailand and Spain, would not fare well on the social and environmental areas of the value map in some segments, though may do well in the economy areas and employment. The case of San Cristobal is different and has the potential to be more sustainable. Again, when taking into account long-haul tourists and the transport segment of sustainability, they would not fare well, but the potential for a good score in social and environmental areas is possible. Though the town of San Cristobal has the service sector and tourism as the largest industries, in the surrounding area, mining is the largest part of the economy. Land use and rights are the prime political concern in the state, and tourism has had a positive effect on this wider social issue. In 1994, the local native Indian villagers staged a rebellion in the town of San Cristobal and other local town halls. Since the 50s, San Cristobal had a small population of anthropologists and archaeologists resident, and since the 70s, a growing tourism sector, initiated by the backpackers in search of the Mayan experience. By the time of the 1994 uprising, there were over 200 small hotels, and the tourism industry was thriving, even though the main beneficiaries were the local Mexican population and not the Maya native population, who were the initial draw for the tourists. After the uprising, however, it was the foreign population who helped to avert a massacre of the Indian population by the Mexican army through their broadcasting of the events and the plight of the Indians to Mexican liberals and the world. Though tourism plummeted by 90% over the next year, it slowly began to return after 2 and 3 years, and now 20 years after the event is not only higher than ever, but tourists come specifically because of the Zapatista uprising of 1994. These political tourists have had both a positive and negative effect socially, but in general the status of the native population is higher than before, and they are managing to revitalize their villages and education with the support of the tourist dollar and NGOs and political tourists. Even though the indigenous people are still on the lowest rung of the economic ladder and the land rights issue continues to be fought, tourism has helped in some areas in this social and economic sphere. This example shows the reach of the tourism industry into the social and economic spheres, and to apply Butter's value map to San Cristobal would be involved and yet at the same time informative, especially in comparison with similar Aboriginal tourism products in BC Canada. In conclusion, when thinking about the concept of sustainability and whether an industry that promotes a luxury consumable product can be sustainable in the largest all-inclusive sense, there are in areas of the industry uses for the sustainable value model to compare and improve standards and build on the positive effect of tourism. A promotion of local tourism based around low-impact nature activities could be developed into a zero net emissions and waste product that had positive local economic and social benefits and could provide a benchmark for a full score map that others could be measured against. This is a great tool for measuring achievement and promoting the desire to do better.